The gravity storm hit Station Kepler-Nine at 0400 hours, and I was absolutely certain we were all going to die. I'm Vex, senior atmospheric technician, and in my 12 cycles aboard this research outpost, I had never seen anything like it. The station groaned like a dying leviathan as gravitational waves rippled through the hull. Equipment tore free from magnetic clamps. My second stomach lurched into my third as the artificial gravity fluctuated between 0, 2, and 3. 7 standard units in the span of 3 heartbeats. Emergency positions. I shrieked through the comm system, my voice crackling with static. Hull breach imminent in sections 4 through 7. The crew scrambled. Well, most of us scrambled. The Queller engineers were vomiting their breakfast across deck plates. The Tholian navigators had locked themselves into fetal positions, all 6 of their limbs wrapped tight around their torsos. Our captain, a usually unflappable Mordash named Krell, was frantically inputting commands that the computer kept rejecting because the gravity fluctuations were frying our sensors faster than we could replace them. And then there was Marcus. The human stood in the observation bay, hands casually shoved into his jumpsuit pockets, watching the gravity storm tear through our sector space like it was some kind of recreational viewing experience. His dark hair floated around his head in the inconsistent gravity, but his expression remained completely, infuriatingly calm. "Marcus," I bellowed, my translator struggling to convey the appropriate level of panic. "Get to the reinforced shelter. Now." He glanced over his shoulder at me, and I swear to every deity in the known galaxy, he smiled. "This," he said, gesturing vaguely at the maelstrom of warped space-time outside the viewport. "Feels like home." I stared at him. My primary eyes blinked, then my secondary eyes, then all 4 at once because surely I had misheard. "Feels like what?" "Home," he repeated, still smiling. "Grew up in tornado country. Oklahoma. This reminds me of spring." A support beam crashed down 3 meters to my left. Sparks erupted from a severed power conduit. The station tilted 15 degrees, and I had to grab onto a handhold to avoid being thrown across the deck. Marcus didn't even stumble. "Your home planet has gravity storms?" I managed to wheeze out. "No, not gravity storms," he said thoughtfully, like we were discussing the weather over morning rations instead of facing imminent catastrophic station failure. "Just regular storms. Wind, rain, hail the size of your fist. Sometimes tornadoes that can rip a building off its foundation and throw it 3 kilometers away." "And you live through this? Regularly?" "Sure. Most people did. We had shelters, warning systems. Honestly, the worst part was losing power for a few days." He paused, watching as another gravitational wave bent the viewport's reinforced transparasteel into a shape that should not have been physically possible. "This is actually pretty similar. Same kind of energy, just on a different scale." I wanted to argue. I wanted to explain to him that no, actually this was nothing like atmospheric wind patterns. This was a Class 7 gravity anomaly that could compress our entire station into a sphere the size of my clenched manipulator. But another alarm started blaring, this one indicating that our structural integrity had dropped below 40%. "Captain," I shouted into my comm, "we need to evacuate to the escape pods." Krell's response was garbled, but I caught the essential meaning. The pods were offline. The gravity fluctuations had scrambled their guidance systems. We were trapped. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Marcus walked over to me, still exhibiting that unnatural human calmness that I was beginning to suspect might actually be some form of neurological damage. "Hey," he said quietly, "you got engineering access from here?" "Yes, but what does that matter when we're about to be compressed into?" "Pull up the station's structural schematic." Now, something in his tone made me comply. I activated my wrist console, projecting the holographic blueprint into the air between us. The schematic flickered and distorted, but it was readable. Marcus studied it for approximately 5 seconds. "There," he said, pointing to junction point 17 in the lower decks. "If we vent atmosphere from sections 8 through 12 in a specific sequence, We can create a pressure differential that'll counteract the rotational force from the gravity waves. I blinked at him. That's completely insane. Yeah, probably, he agreed. But back home, we used to reduce tornado damage by opening windows on the lee side of buildings. Same principle, different application. You're comparing a gravity storm to a tornado? Sure, why not? Both are rotational vortexes with extreme force differentials. The physics scale up, but the fundamentals are the same. Another shudder ran through the station. This one felt different, deeper, more ominous. I had two choices: trust the insane human or wait to die. I grabbed my comm with 3 of my manipulators while pulling up the venting controls with the 4th. Captain Krell, I shouted. I need authorization to execute an emergency atmospheric dump. Sections 8 through 12, sequential pattern. The silence that followed lasted exactly 2.3 seconds, which felt like an eternity while the station groaned and twisted around us. Have you lost your thermal regulation completely? Krell's voice finally crackled back. That'll depressurize a quarter of the station. I know, sir. I glanced at Marcus, who was already moving toward the manual override console. But the human has a plan. Another pause. Longer this time. I could practically hear Krell's 4-chambered heart struggling with the decision. The human who thinks this feels like home? That's the one, sir. Ancestors preserve us. Authorization granted. Don't make me regret this, Vex. Marcus was already at the override panel, his fingers flying across the controls with surprising precision. Okay, listen carefully. We've in Section 8 first, 3-second burst. Then Section 10, 5 seconds. Skip 9 entirely. Then 11 and 12 simultaneously, 2-second pulse. That pattern makes no logical sense. I protested, even as I programmed the sequence. Doesn't have to make sense to you, Marcus replied, his eyes fixed on the viewport where the gravity storm continued its assault. Just has to make sense to the physics. Trust me. Trust him. Trust the human who grew up on a death world where the atmosphere itself tried to kill people on a seasonal basis. The human who thought catastrophic gravitational anomalies were nostalgic. I executed the sequence. Section 8 vented with an explosive whoosh that rattled my teeth. The station lurched hard to port. I heard screaming through the comm system, several crew members convinced I had just killed us all. 5 seconds felt like 5 hours. Section 10 vented. The station shuddered, twisted, and for one horrible moment, I was certain Marcus had been completely wrong, and we were all about to become exotic matter smeared across several cubic kilometers of space. Then something extraordinary happened. The rotation slowed. 11 and 12 now. Marcus barked. I slammed my manipulator down on the controls. The final 2 sections vented simultaneously, and the station gave one last violent shudder before suddenly, miraculously, stabilizing. The gravity readings on my console began to normalize. 0.8 standard units. 0.9. 1.0. Holding steady. The storm was still raging outside, gravitational waves still rippling through space like cosmic ocean swells, but we were no longer being torn apart. We were riding it out, somehow matching the rhythm of the destruction rather than fighting against it. Status report. Krell's voice thundered through the comm. What just happened? We're stable, Captain, I reported, staring at my instruments in disbelief. Structural integrity climbing back to 67%. Gravity normalized. We're going to survive this. The relief in Krell's exhale was audible. How? I looked at Marcus, who had returned to the viewport, watching the gravity storm with that same casual appreciation someone might give a particularly beautiful sunset. The human, sir. He applied something called tornado safety protocols. He what? Apparently humans have weather patterns on their home world that regularly attempt to obliterate their settlements, and they've developed strategies to mitigate the damage by working with the forces instead of against them. Marcus turned back to us, grinning. We get about 1,200 tornadoes a year back home. You learn to respect the wind, find the patterns, use the physics. A gravity storm is just wind you can't see, pulling instead of pushing. Krell appeared in the doorway, looking like he had aged several cycles in the past 10 minutes. You're telling me that Earth has atmospheric conditions severe enough that the survival strategies translate to Class 7 gravity anomalies? Well, when you put it that way, it sounds dramatic, Marcus said with a shrug. But yet basically, the captain stared at him. I stared at him. Through the comm system, I could hear the rest of the crew staring at him from their various positions throughout the station. Humans are terrifying, Krell finally said. We get that a lot, Marcus replied cheerfully. The gravity storm continued for another 2 hours, but we rode it out exactly as Marcus had predicted. When it finally dissipated, leaving our section of space mercifully calm, I found myself standing next to the human in the observation bay again. So I said carefully, "Your planet tries to kill you with violent atmospheric vortexes on a regular basis?" "Oh, that's just the tornadoes," Marcus said. "We also have hurricanes, typhoons, monsoons, blizzards, dust storms, electrical storms, and my personal favorite, something called a derecho. Plus earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, floods, droughts, and wildfires. Earth's pretty lively." I processed this information slowly. And humans just live there? Voluntarily? "It's home," he said simply, smiling at me with that inexplicable human warmth. "You learn to love it, respect it, work with it. Besides, it makes the rest of the galaxy feel kind of tame by comparison." I looked out at the stars, now peaceful and steady, and realized something profound. We didn't recruit humans for their technology or their resources. We recruited them because they came from a world that had been trying to kill them since they climbed down from the trees, and they somehow turned that into an advantage. "Hey, Marcus," I said quietly. "Yeah? Next time there's a catastrophic emergency, I'm standing next to you." He laughed, that peculiar human sound that somehow conveyed both humor and camaraderie. "Smart thinking, Vex. Smart thinking." And despite everything, despite nearly dying, despite the humans' absolutely insane approach to station safety, I found myself laughing too. Because really, what else could you do when you worked alongside a species that thought gravity storms felt like home? So what did you think? Did this story surprise you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this sci-fi story, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing science fiction stories every week. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.